Good morning. Now, I'm meant to be resting. I'm in the middle of radiotherapy, but I can't not go out and forage at this time of year. So I've escaped. I'm just outside my own back door. I'm going to nip up the lane and I'm going to pick some lime leaves, which I did the other day for sandwiches. But today I'm going to brine them so that I can use them like vine leaves in Dolmade type concoctions. This lime tree, that's Linden, Tilia, Europa. It's only a few 100 yards from my house. And like a lot of things this year, it's running late, which means there's still plenty of really fresh leaves to be had. Now, you want to pick the ones, not these ones that are just unfurled. You want the first full-size ones that you can get, but they should still be nice and tender. And each one of those is going to stand in for a vine leaf. Now this year there's galls on some of these leaves, so you'll see these little needly progressions. Don't pick those, not nearly as nice to eat. That little lot should do me. It is such a strange year this year though. On one side of the tree I've got these lovely fresh big leaves, on the other side much more mature leaves, and look, it's not going to be all that long before the flowers are out with their amazing scent. So you just got to keep your wits about you, but certainly this year what would have been over a few weeks ago is still well worth foraging. Let's get these home and I can pretend I haven't been out at all. Ha ha. Once home and rinsed, get them into a pan with an inch or two of water, get them on the stove, bring them to the boil and give them, well, anything between 2 and 10 minutes, depending on how firm you think the leaves are. Very young, soft ones that you'd eat in a sandwich, hardly any time. They're a little bit more mature. Give them those extra couple of minutes, make sure they're really nicely blanched and good and floppy. While the lime leaves are blanching, we can set up the brine that's going to preserve them for a few days. Now, I do this by eye, there's no real rhyme or reason to it, so a couple of tablespoons of sea salt. Does that look like a couple of tablespoons? Near enough. Now, I would normally use cider vinegar, but I've run out, so I'm on white wine vinegar. A glug of that. A little bit more, maybe. Another couple of tablespoons, really. Top it up with as much hot water as you think will cover your lime leaves, so round about a pint. And then as soon as the leaves are done and drained, and that's cooled a little bit, we'll stick them in a tub, pop them in the fridge and ignore them for a week. Those look about done. I'd still eat them raw at this stage myself, so they really don't need very much, but just check that they're nice and floppy, and that's what we want. I'll get those drained and into the brine. Just layer them into a tub and pour the brine in. I tend to do a few layers at a time just to make sure that the brine gets absolutely through everything. So a bit of brine, 2 or 3 leaves. Try not to crumple them up too much. So a few leaves, splash more brine. Just keep going until it's all done. When it's all full, just give it a little pat with a spoon. Make sure there's no big air bubbles in there anywhere. Pop a lid on it. As soon as it's cold, it can go in the fridge, and I like to let these marinate for a few days, up to a week. After that, you can always freeze them if you're not ready to use them, and then you use them exactly like vine leaves, wrapped around things like rice-based fillings, and they're really tasty. These have soaked in their brine for a few days now, so it's a perfect time to try them out. You can use almost anything in the filling. Mine's super simple today because it's just a snack. There's garlic and shallots, which I'm going to saute with cumin and quite a lot of black pepper. Then I'll stir in some grated carrot. Then I'll stir in some soaked and drained rice, and then we'll get stuffing. Before I start wrapping properly, I'm preparing the dish I'm going to cook my wraps in by putting a very thin layer of lemon slices on the bottom. Now this is partly to stop them sticking, but partly because it's going to give them a really nice citrusy flavour, and because I've got a very plain filling in mine, I think that's going to be really nice. That should be plenty. So I've lightly rinsed and drained my leaves. If I've got stalky bits, I'm just going to whip those off. Another trick is to not use too much stuffing, but to get it properly wrapped up inside. And these generally aren't quite as big as vine leaves, so teaspoonful of stuffing, fold up the bottom, fold in the sides, roll it up, ignore the cat in the background. And then pop your parcel seam side down into your dish and keep going. And here's the very last one. Could really have done with a couple more to fill up my dish, but that's all right. The important thing is that they're fairly tightly packed because that rice is going to expand and you really want them to sort of jam together to keep them in place. Now, I'm going to put my remaining lemon slices on top. Doesn't matter if there's not so many. This is really to stop things. Let's put that in the end to wedge it. It's really just to stop the dish I put on top to press it from sticking. That's all my bits of lemon. That's all my bits of lemon. Right, little bit of stock. And this is really to cook off the rice, so it doesn't need to be tons, just enough maybe to come halfway up. And I'm going to put a lid on top, which in my case is an identical dish. And that's to stop the little parcels floating up and unwrapping as they cook. So that goes into a moderate oven for 30 minutes or so. Then I'll let it cool down in the dish and we'll have it with a yoghurty mint dip. Straight out of the oven. These need a little bit of time now to finish swelling up and to set, otherwise they'll unravel. So I reckon if I leave them while I nip out to my next radiotherapy session, they will be perfect by the time I'm back. Ta-da! Yummy. Happy hedge bothering.